Hello and welcome to Thank You Half Hour. My name is Tom Christopher Warren. I'm your host, and my guest today is someone that I've known for a minute. I first met her when she was in college and has since taken the world by storm. I mean, in an incredible, really, truly extraordinary way. You know her from Broadway's Mamma Mia and National Tour of Spring Awakening. And I think probably most people know her as the original Anya in Anastasia on Broadway. Remarkable, Christy Altomare. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. You know I'm obsessed with you in every way, shape, and form possible, and I just can't believe that you thank you for asking me to be here. I love it.
I mean, as
Yeah.
busy as you are, you have a newborn. Not newborn. Tell me how old he is.
He's 15 months old now.
Does that feel like a newborn,
Um,
or does it feel like he's growing so much every day that every day is new?
it feels like he's definitely in toddler mode. He was probably I would say was an early walker,
Oh,
slower to talk. He knows a few words, but he's more of a walker runner and very exploratory. So there's times in the last week I've woken up and been like, "Chris, like we have a toddler now. He's no longer a child. Like he's no longer a baby, you know?"
is
So
that
it's
terrifying
cool.
or exciting or both?
It's so exciting. It's so exciting because there's so many stages, and when you're a new parent and when it's your first child, you get to experience them all for the very first time. So I can't wait. I'm so excited for him to be able to really articulate no and yes. And I know
Yeah,
that's something that a lot of people want not to happen, but for me, I'm like, I want to know when he wants lunch, when
right.
he doesn't want lunch, Like today I'm sitting with like I have the tray and I'm like, "Do you want this?" And he couldn't articulate yes or no. He was kind of like indifferent. So I started eating it and then he was like and then he got a little closer, and then he was able to eat off my plate. And it's just a lot. It's a lot, Tom. Ah,
Oh my
okay.
god, I just read the news about the Anastasia, reunion. How long
Yeah.
have you known about that?
Yeah. A few months now.
Oh,
I am so excited because I wasn't sure when they asked me, they said I was the first offer out. So I didn't know who else was gonna be joining me.
sure.
And then one by one, like I get a text from John Bolton, "It's on," you know?
Great.
And so I think we're all just like there's so much energy around it. I hear that I think yesterday the tickets went on sale and it broke the box office for a bit. So it's just like I'm going to
Oh.
see all my Fantasias, and it's just going to be like a huge celebration of Lynn and Stevens' beautiful show. You
Oh, it
know.
was stunning. I sobbed throughout the show, the whole time. I mean, my part of it was sobbing because I'm seeing somebody I know and love, starring in a Broadway show. That's emotional, but also it was just such a beautiful production, and seeing all of
Mhm.
these kids just,
And
experiencing
you
that
know you're
story.
the reason still a performer, right?
That
Does
is
everyone know
that
this?
is nonsense. You
Well,
you
I was at a period in my life where I thought, Maybe I'm gonna hang in the towel," and you were the person that, like, took me out of that. So, I owe so much to you for believing in me, um, and just yeah, all of your encouragement and positive words were just something I really needed. You Can I
Mhm.
say what you did? Can I
Yeah,
say it?
sure, yeah.
You directed me, in my senior year at college. We did Little Women, and you cast me as Amy, and, that show was such a beautiful show. Every single person was incredible in it, and your direction, I just remember being so excited to get to come to class because I knew I was gonna have rehearsal at the end of the day, and we were gonna get to run through these scenes. Your notes were always the best notes, and maybe that's what they say, like, people who are actors transitioning, to like you do it all, but being a director too, you get it from an actor's perspective.
Uh,
And you were able to guide me. Yeah.
I like working with directors who are former or current performers just because I feel like the shared vocabulary and that shared lens is useful. I know not everybody does, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really like coming to the direction of the show, having had an actor's lens. Also, thank you for the kind words, but I stepped into a production that had just the most glorious set design and costume design and wig design and choreography. And musical director. Like I was set up to succeed. I really would have had to like be a complete bonehead to screw that up. And the cast was, unbelievable. Like we just had all
Yeah.
A-listers, every single one. Even, it's a college production, right? So you have some college kids playing older roles, and our underclassmen were rock stars as underclassmen and approached it. I still think of Kyle Brown's audition. Kyle Brown, who has since taken Broadway by storm in show after show after
Who
show after
played
show.
my Dimitri on Broadway. He played my
That's
Dimitri
right.
on Broadway a couple times.
That's
Yeah. We
incredible.
got to do it together.
I came to the show not knowing any of you, so I had no preconceived notions, and I walk into the audition, and I didn't know people, and Kyle walked in, and I assumed that he was a grad student because of how he presented himself. He had a beard. He was wearing, appropriate clothes to audition for an older character in the show. And I just thought, oh, he's obviously a grown-up. He's an adult, and he's an acting major. And then he shows up to the first day of rehearsal, clean shaven and dancer. I had no idea. I just assumed that his track was that of an acting MFA. And to watch
Wow.
his Broadway career just, explode has been thrilling, as it has been to watch all of you. I mean, every single one of you has gone on to great success, deservedly. And I remember you
It was
saying,
a pretty great
it
cast
really
that
was.
you cast. You cast us not knowing anything, just walking in. And I still talk to so many of them, and yes, you're right. The one thing that you can admire about CCM's training is that they really teach you to care about the profession and to take it seriously.
Yep.
And I will never forget, that was honestly the same way Kyle Brown was when we were in school, he was when we were doing Anastasia together. I would see him because he had one of the hardest tracks because he was understudying Dimitri, but then also dancing that incredible
Oh my
ballet
God.
in the middle of the piece.
That partner
And
work.
so he'd be stretching backstage every day. I mean, the work that he had to do. And then he's just ridiculously strong and never complains. So when we were choreographing it, I just remember them being like, "Can you like hold these 3 people and then do a spin?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I got it." And it was just like, he's gonna and he will do it 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
That's just who he is, you know? No questions, just, "Sure, I got this."
Sure, I got it.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you wanna work with, though. I mean, those are the people that you keep asking to surround yourself with because it just makes life a little bit easier. We had a
Yeah.
little quick chat before we pressed go on this about both of us surrounding ourselves with, like-minded people. The world is nuts right now, and,
Yeah.
I very intentionally choose to surround myself with people who are heart-driven, and I know you do too, and you have always given back the way watching you. I visited you backstage after Anastasia, and I saw the fan mail, the bags and boxes and cartons filled with fan mail, every piece of which you looked through and
Yeah.
you
Oh, and responded,
and
yeah.
respond to, and that is not.
I had a helper, but she never responded. She would just help me after I do something. She would put it away and mail it for me. But that was it. I was able to get it done. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And for those of you who have
She
never
never
had the
looked at anything.
that's incredible, and if you haven't seen Christy Altomare at a stage door, I highly suggest you find time to do that because it's community engagement, it's human engagement on the most genuine level. Like there's no pretense with you. You're just all
There will probably
heart.
be a concert impromptu at some point. One thing that I really loved is that anytime I was at the stage door and someone was like, "Do you wanna sing a little bit of In My Dreams or whatever?" I'd be like, "Let's do it, man." And it was so much fun because it was just this I would always think of it like this big celebration of this piece of art that not only, was I lovely that I got to do it, but I'm also a fan of the music.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, I got to fan out with other people that were just as nerdy as me, right? And that's what you want, is to find your people,
That's
your
it.
nerdy. Yeah,
Find your nerdy group. Yeah. And you were,
yeah.
in college, I remember you saying, "My goal post-graduation is to book the tour of Spring Awakening." That you were like, you were so, intentional about working on that piece, that score, that character, and I think you did Mama Who Bore Me for your showcase, right? I mean, did you
I did. And you wanna know what's crazy? I'm so blessed. I am working on I've been working on a project the last couple of years that Duncan Sheik has. It's a new project that Duncan
Mhm.
Sheik's working on. But I will never forget when Spring Awakening went off Broadway. I got called in to audition while I was in college. And I will never forget listening to the music and just listening to Duncan's demos and like the hair standing on the back of my, neck. Just there was nothing like this on Broadway.
Yep.
And even though I was training to be a Broadway performer, I really came from the world of songwriting,
Mhm.
and I grew up on Jewel and, that sort of sound. So hearing and I Am Barely Breathing, right? And so hearing him singing these brand new pop songs and putting them into a musical was just mind-blowing for me. So, yeah, it was incredible getting that opportunity. And I remember the reason I say is I remember talking to him recently. And of course, like he doesn't know, like I was lucky enough to get cast and he didn't know how much his music had
Mhm.
meant to me. And because when you're on when you do a tour, you don't really get to spend as much time with the writers of the show. When you originate a show, you're spending a lot more time
Sure.
with the writers and the people who create it. So like I spent a lot of time with Lynn and Steven, but I didn't really get to spend any time with Duncan. So getting to talk to him and just say, "Oh, you have no idea what your music means to me and to so many people," because it was so cool. There was really no thing on Broadway quite like it at that time. Now
No.
we have, Dear Evan Hansen and like all sorts of kind of more contemporary-ish sounding, things, but at that time, it was so unique. Am I wrong in saying that? Do
No,
you know
you're
what I'm saying?
spot on. He
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Lin-Manuel, I think his vocabulary, his musical
Yes,
vocabulary was new to our ears in that moment, and also
yes.
just the approach of watching young people unpack their hearts in a way that was very honest and raw and ugly when it needed to be, and so extraordinarily beautiful, and to do it set against the backdrop of his gorgeous score, it was just it I and I did the show a few years ago, and I thought, "Oh, this is the young people are gonna have the best time, and I'm just gonna be there doing my gig as the character man." And I really went into it thinking this is not, um this is gonna be great fun for them, and I'm thrilled to be here, but it's not my story, it's not my show. And it was such a universally joyful experience for all of us, and the kids brought so many kids, the younger actors brought so much to the table right from table work and included us old fogies right from the beginning in conversations that were, new for a lot of us and important and, exciting, and I had the best time doing that show. It's draining, and particularly for Wendla, like, it's a lot.
I just remember, I think I've cried every performance. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't not with everything that she goes through. She
yeah.
gets slapped, she has an abortion. There's a lot that happens. Spoiler alert for anyone
Spoiler alert, it's a
who
lot for
hasn't
me.
seen Spring Awakening. Or she just gets anemia. It's fine. She gets
Sure.
anemia.
It's an iron deficiency, she'll be fine, I'm sure it'll end well.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot that happens in that show. And at the time, so what made that tour really cool, on top of the fact that it was this brand new sound that was really coming to Broadway, they had just won the Tony for Best Musical, and I'm now going on the road with this show. The other really cool element was the time period. So now you have the birth of YouTube, where YouTube was really having its comeuppance around that time. And then by 2008, which is when I went on the road, it became really cool to do like live, like, or not lives, but like blogging or vlogging
Okay.
became a thing. And so the Anastasia team gave us all these cameras. And that's kind of where the birth of my lives during Anastasia came from, because we would just walk around backstage with these cameras and film everything and then hand our cameras back to the team. They would edit it all together and create these episodes that then people who were fans of the show could follow us and become familiar with us before we came to their hometown. And that sort of garnered another level of like almost social media influencer
Wow.
to the whole experience, uh, which was surreal. Yeah.
Wow.
And you're like a rock star. You feel like a rock star, but you're not going from night to night to another place. You're spending like a week to 3 weeks in every city.
Yeah.
So that was crazy as a young 20 something
What
to
a
be doing
perfect
that.
time in your life to tour. What a perfect time. And of course, with that show that had such an incredible fan following.
Yeah. Yeah,
Remarkable.
that's the thing is they always say tour when you're young, but it's like tour if you get a job, nobody ever knows if they're gonna ever get
That
work.
part.
It's like, "Oh, I can just decide when I'm going to tour." It's like, no one can decide, but I was lucky enough that it turned out that way, right?
I will say touring because I'm touring now again full time for the first time in like 20 years, and
Tell me, how is it?
it's great. It's different. It's very different, right? I'm in my 50s and touring, and the touring experience is different now than it was 20 years ago. Our sit downs back then were months. We would sit for 3 months in Hawaii and 3 months, 4 months in Boston, and now we're 3 to 4 weeks, and the crew works so hard. The load in is so fast now to get, we got to get butts in seats. So the load in is tighter, and we're playing houses that we don't, fit comfortably in, but we can fit if everybody works their asses off. And so they have to so hard in each venue. But
Oh, yeah.
again, you're hitting these markets that are so happy to have you there, and they're grateful to have us in town, spending money in their towns, meeting the people there, eating at the
Yeah.
restaurants and sitting in the music venues. It's such a great way to see the country. Um,
Yeah.
but
And to spread joy.
uh, it never gets old. It never gets old.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm a part of something that is a joyful show and that is great for young people. So I get to see young people inspired and happy every day, which is a gift. I'm not touring in Night Mother or something really sad. So
Yeah.
the gift
Yeah.
is to be a part of something.
Yeah. That is true. Doing Spring Awakening was definitely a little bit more of that vibe,
Woo.
where when we went to Texas, I had a woman come up to me and have some words. She had some words for me about, like, how could my grandparents allow me to do this show? And yeah.
Oh,
But I
well,
love Texas. I've been back to Texas so many times. They're so cool there. It's just
oh
that one
yeah.
lady.
I mean, and there's
Yeah.
that lady exists everywhere.
Yeah.
She's everywhere, that lady. But then there is always, tell me what it is. You're a Disney princess now, right? Because Anastasia
Yeah.
is officially a Disney
Officially
property
Disney.
now, right? So she's a Disney princess, and you've spent how long touring with Disney Princess Show? Oh my God, I got to see you here in Columbus, and the whole thing was just remarkable. Every single one of you is remarkable. What does that feel like to? That's a weight of responsibility, right? To carry that weight of serving as a role model for so many young people, and you handle it with so much grace. What does it feel like?
Well, I think it's just about, I don't know. I feel like the cool okay. So the cool thing about doing the Disney Princess the concert show is that a lot of times when you do a show, you're the love interest or whatever, and there's one, but you have now this team of leading ladies that gets to interact with one another and encourage each other and cheer each other on in a very honest and like real way, um, that I've never experienced before when
Mhm.
doing a show. So we were all the leaders. When you do a show,
Yep.
it's like there's the leader, of the show. A lot of times the director is the leader, and then whoever's the lead of the show or the leads of the show
Yep.
sort of like set the tone for how things are going to go backstage, for
That's right.
how things are going to go in the front, how people are treating others.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Susan Egan, who, is a big hand, plays a big hand. There's a team of people, but her and Courtney and Ben Rauhala, is that they're all like they Susan understands that world of being a leader and being like loving and kind and good and like you said, surrounding yourself with good people. Before the show, we did these meet and greets where we got to hug people and once again, like I said, become a nerd with another nerd
Yeah.
as we're singing Disney songs and we're wearing little tutus and they're wearing full-on princess dresses and we can pretend we're princesses for a minute, which who doesn't want to continue to do that forever?
Seriously.
That was yeah, I mean, like, we all pretend that we become adults and that's it. We can't have fun and we can't pretend and we can't be imaginative and we can't, have that childlike wonderment and that childlike excitement sometimes. So that's what I love about doing that is that we all get to live in that world, that new, even if it's just for a moment, we get to live in a fantasy for just a moment, and then go back to our real life. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
celebrate.
and your real life now includes a toddler who, through his lens and his eyes, you will be opening up imagination for the next however many years. What are you excited to do with him as he gets older? Are you excited to go to Disney or are you excited to go to get into sports? Like, what are his interests currently?
Right. Right now, honestly, well, to answer your first question, we love like we want to make sure that he is encouraged to do whatever it is his heart is
Of course.
what moving towards. So we'll ask him many questions
Yeah.
about, okay, what are you interested in,
Yeah.
to make sure he very much gets the ideas coming from him, not from mommy, right? But I do notice with some of the gift, like some of the presents we've given him that he's just played with, he gravitates to these Montessori bells that we've given him.
Cool.
It's like if if you have a kid, it's the Love Every brand, and they have a special music package that comes with, like, pipes and a bunch of bells and things, and we were never like, "Oh, you have to do music," or anything like that, or pushing him on music or anything, but he just loves these bells, so he'll walk down in the morning and he just, like you just hear every sound, and he's making little tunes all the time. He'll run up to my guitar and play it. Sometimes I'll run to the piano and just be banging on it, and we're like, "Okay,
Oh,
okay,
you
he's
have a
into it."
musician.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this,
yeah.
but when we did Little Women, we would gather in your apartment fairly regularly, and you would just pick up the guitar and just jam. Like we would just, it's the Christy Altomare hour. Please entertain us. You've just come through a day of classes and rehearsals, and we're like, dance for grandma. And just, I remember having all of your albums and listening to one of your songs was my wedding website song, uh, the Ohio song, like, just your music just speaks to people. Are you still writing? Like, do you have time to
You know, it's so crazy because I feel like the one thing that might be helpful to talk about, is just how your priorities
Hmm,
shift when you have a kid. I do not see myself giving up songwriting. I do not see myself giving up making albums and having that life. And I do not see myself leaving musical theater, but I think there is a time for certain things in your life. And I only get this like valuable time with my son one time and then it's gone. And I I wanted to have a kid so bad and I didn't think I was going to be able to because the pandemic hit hard and I was in my apartment in Midtown Manhattan and streets were boarded up, Broadway was completely shut down, and I left a 4-year relationship, all of someone I was engaged to be married to,
yeah.
all at the same time.
Ooh,
And I was 35, and I just didn't think I would meet anyone else, and, the clock's ticking, right? And
mm,
so having met Chris and getting to have this amazing experience has been like it's just like such a blessing. I just can't believe it. And um seeing him every day and getting to share in his excitement as he discovers new things. Um, Also, I think that when you're a performer, there's a lot of anxiety that hits you, where it's like, oh, I really, because okay, here's the thing: when you're a performer, you're like an Olympian, so
Yeah.
you have to put 110% into what you are doing. Your whole life has to be your job. Like you, I don't think I even like formed that many close friendships while I was in the city because I was so focused on every audition and
Yeah.
every chance I got to perform, that because I loved what I was doing, but it also, it's your everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm just reveling in taking this time to give my love to him, and also being like discerning about where I place my time when it comes to theater. If someone were to call me up tomorrow and be like, Broadway, I'd be like, yes, I will do a Broadway show. But like, or like a concert. But when it comes to, a lot of the times you're asked to like, you can be in a situation where you're asked to go away or go on tour
Sure.
for 3 or 4 weeks or go to Tokyo. Like, those calls happen, and you
Sure.
have to make the decision to say, I wanna be here for these moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question. What was your question
Oh, it
again?
totally listen, I just wanna hear more about, your how you balance
Oh,
motherhood,
eating.
and that answers that. Does it,
Mhm.
does I'm curious to know if motherhood and also the current state of this world, is that informing the work that you do choose to do? Like not just the caliber of it, but the tone of the work? Has that changed for you at all?
Ooh, that's so interesting. I think that I just get gravitated to the projects that I'm gravitated
Yeah.
to. So I've been working with this one show for a really long time called The Wanderer, and they're trying to get to Broadway. If not this next season, the next or the next or the next,
Sure.
like it's gonna come.
Yeah.
Um, and that show, oh, it's such a hopeful show about love, and it's all about the story of Dion DiMucci and him. He was on the tour, the Buddy Holly tour, before the plane went down.
Mm,
And then he was the one person that didn't go on the plane. So he's the
mm.
one survivor. And it's the whole story of him facing addiction and coming out of it, and, uh, reaching out to God and like finding sobriety.
Mm.
And it's done in such an artful, loving, like nurturing, funny way. Um, and so I would be so honored to get to be a part of art like that. But then I'm working on this amazing other piece called Noir, which I absolutely love. And it is a murder mystery, a total like, fantasy, like
Love it.
murder mystery. Like it reminds you of, well, film noir. So it honors that genre in like such a real way, and in a like a way that you'll get to see it live.
Love.
And you have Darko, who directed Anastasia, and Kyle Jarrow, who wrote the SpongeBob musical, um, and Carla Garcia, who's this new up and coming choreographer who just won an Emmy,
Ugh,
and Linda Cho, who did our costumes, who did Anastasia costumes, and just
Gentleman's
won the
Guide.
Tony
Yeah,
for.
she's genius.
Yeah, yeah. So like I both pieces of art are so different, but so beautiful, and like beautiful just works of art, but live in completely different worlds.
How
And
exciting.
I don't know. I'd be honored to get to do either of them if something happens with them. So we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But
And
yeah.
meanwhile, you're
Yeah.
shaping a human being. You're raising a human life
Yeah.
who changes every day, teaches you something every day, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah, and not taking it, and trying not to take it for granted,
Yeah.
and learning from him too, patience, um, and wanting desperately for him to be his own person, but know that we're there. So, yeah, it's a lot, and I'm of course, you're, like, online all day long trying to read all the different ways to parent, and there's a lot of opinions, so you go a little bit crazy.
Was patience something you had to learn?
You know? No, I mean, I think every parent, when their kid is waking up 4 times a night, like, you get to a point where you're like, "Ah," but you don't but you instinctively don't put that on the kid,
Right.
you know? Um, but there are times, like, you have to yourself, just be like, calm your nervous system,
Yeah.
because it's not them, that they're a baby, so you
Right.
just gotta be understand and that happens instinctually, I think, for most, but inside, it's about, like, chill out, chill out, chill out.
What's your favorite part of watching Chris be a father?
Oh my gosh. Well, you never know. That's the best part is that you when you get married, you never know. You know your husband's a good husband, but you never know if he's gonna be a good dad. And so it's a surprise. You don't know what you're gonna get. And from the moment he was born, I had a C-section, and from the moment he was born, I was it was really painful. Like, I was kind of out of commission for a couple days. I just you can tell I'm an actress, right? So I experience things with more sensation, so it
Sure.
just hurt so bad, and I was really out of commission, and so he just stepped up and was just there, and the nurses kept coming in and being like, "Wow, like, he's really doing a great job," and he did, and then from then on, seeing him play with him and, like, pick him up and all the things, yeah, he's like it was, like, so exciting to see him become a dad and to watch him succeed at it so well, and to know that I can rely on him and that he can rely
Yeah.
on me because
Yeah.
they say it takes a village, but you don't know until you have one.
I
It
can't imagine.
really you can't be alone in it. Yeah.
Just extraordinary. I am so proud of you. I know I say that every time I see you because it's true every time I see you, but it continues to be true. I'm so proud of how you lead through example, how you shape the lives of others at every turn, intentionally or not. I think intentionally and not. Um, and everything you do is just so filled with purpose and joy and light and song. And I just adore
I
you.
feel like I could take everything that you said and just throw it back at you because that is who you are and what you are to me. It says a lot when you think of someone and, like, your whole body feels good. Like that like, I'm just happy. Every time I think of you, my heart just fills with love.
Same.
So that's what you do for me, just joy in my heart.
Same.
Yeah.
What a gift Little Women was to all of us. We all just it was a love
Yeah.
fest, every one of us, and it's the
We
gift
should
that has
we
kept on
should
giving.
take that show to Broadway, revive it, and
I
just take the same cast.
agree. I agree.
I can be Amy. I can do it.
You could. Listen, I may have just looked you up on Wikipedia, and my producers will attest to this. I gasped when it listed your age because I'm like, "That's not possible." She's 26, 27 now because, time is a construct. I'm like, "Oh, you are a fully formed adult. You're an adult human being raising a child." And I guess time has marched on for all of us.
Isn't that weird though?
Yep.
It is true. And
Yep.
you have to live in your age. You have to
Yeah.
honor your age.
Yeah.
I think that this business will make us feel like we have to live in this state of youth forever. And no, there's such beauty in honoring your age and honoring who you are. And it was my time to have kids, and not everyone wants that, and they
Sure.
shouldn't have them if they don't want them,
Yeah.
like, that's good, that's awesome, but for me, it was like, I need to honor this time, so I was lucky I was able to with the right person, but yeah.
You're
Yeah.
the best. I love you, friend. Thank you for
You're the
carving out
best!
time.
Thank you for asking me, I feel so fancy amongst all the people that you've interviewed, my gosh.
I mean, people have said yes. I said I have this little podcast that like tens of people listen to. Do you want to chat? And they're like, sure. Lipa has become a very dear friend and is a neighbor here in Columbus. I said, will you be my first guest? And just everybody just jumps in with both feet and has been so supportive. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been really fun.
Andrew Lipa's so funny.
Oh,
Do
so
you think he was like do you think in another life he should have been a comedian
yes, yes,
or
and I
some
I I think in another life he was because first of all, obviously the man is a writer, so his way with words is extraordinary. But you're right, his
Yeah,
comic timing, that dry, his wit is so keen, and yeah, he's a joy. He really is.
There's no one like him.
No.
And I listened to the Sarah Gettelfinger one. Oh my goodness. And her too.
She's
And her
remarkable.
stories.
And
Her
her
stories of
yes,
her life. Ugh.
and owning it all and wearing it all as, as a badge of this is what my path has been. This is what my story is, and it's mine, and I can take that story and help others with it. She's just always been remarkable. She and my husband
Mhm.
were classmates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that. I thought that's so cool. I think the one cool thing about aging, if I want to say something about being my age, is that the mask starts to lower, you know?
Yes.
And I think part of the reason why we get so drawn to being performers is because we're all sort of trying to hide something, and that the more you go into this into this field, the mask starts to lower, and like you start to own you and who you really are. And that's the best part of aging,
Well,
for
you give
sure. And then
less
it
of a
probably informs your performing, right?
it
What did you say?
does. No, you just give less of a
Yeah.
shit about what people think about you. Because the
Yeah.
truly important things start to rise to the surface. You have a child, your priorities completely shift, and that's
Yeah.
the gift of aging. Yeah,
And you wanna have those deep conversations, the ones that you're having right now on this podcast. You wanna have real connections with people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
particularly since we live in a world where our connections are all social media, so they're all little sound bites. To have an actual conversation where we're not looking at our phones and we're not, and the world right now is bonkers. So these conversations are
And we
healing.
feel so isolated,
Mm,
you know, even though, you're scrolling through. I'm actually taking a class right now,
of course you
and,
are.
part of it is you have to give up something that's like a habit, and I gave up social media, and wouldn't you know, this is the greatest week for me to give up social media because
They announced
they make this announcement, everyone's texting me, and I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go in there to post," but then I'm not responding to people, and then people are probably thinking it's because I don't care, but I do.
nobody's thinking that.
I have December 1st, I will be responding to every person on my social media, but I had to go off it because I was one of those addicts that just you're going through and
Same.
you're scrolling, and you finish that and you're like, "I wasted all that time."
Mhm.
And my like, did I learn anything? Like, am I a better person for what I just did? And I've been away from it for 17 days now, and I found so much peace. So, like, if you can, most people can't, but if you, if you find that you can just for like a time or just like
Yep.
tailor it, like just the scrolling, whatever, um, you do, I feel healthier for
My
sure.
husband did it. He
Yeah.
he got rid of Facebook after the election because he just couldn't, and he immediately felt the relief of that and the
Oh, yeah, mine was
peace.
during the entire thing, so I didn't have to feel anything.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know. My husband's like, "Don't you wanna listen to some of the news?" I'm like, "No, I'm not listening to
I really
anything. I
don't.
want
Yeah.
nothing."
I love you. Thank you
Yeah.
for this. Go back to your beautiful family and thank your husband for taking the slack and letting you come on the microphone with me because I'm so grateful just to spend time with you and share space with you. And I
Oh
miss
my
you.
gosh, when I told him what this was, he was like, "Yes, yes, you have to do this." He loves you so much too, so,
The
yeah,
feeling is
he knows who
mutual.
you are. He knows who you are to me. Yeah, totally.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you, half hour.
Boxland Media. Think big.